for this House, probably working with the Senate, to come up with a clear strategy on how to engage the federal government to live up to its own agreements.
We must rise to it. They are killing people in the east, in the west, in the south, in the north. We should shut down the National Assembly if we cannot save this country.
Hello again, and many thanks for finding time to join us on our program. This is Political Arena. It's a program that brings you up to speed with happenings in the polity within the Nigeria political space. Christy Jahoya, my name. Glad to be your guide on the program again today. It's the midweek edition of Political Arena. It runs twice a week right here on Delta Rainbow Television, DRTV WARRI. If you missed the live edition, you could join us on our YouTube at DRTV and also follow us on our Facebook page at Delta Rainbow Television WARRI. Welcome. For quite a while now, it's been drama when you talk about the ability, availability, accessibility, and then affordability of the new or old currency notes. Right now, we're looking at a situation where Naira has been exchanging for Naira at, do we say at the open market now, or how do we put it? Well, it's not been a picnic at all when it comes to issues of the Central Bank of Nigeria recent monetary policy, to the extent that the 1,000 Naira, 500 Naira, 200 Naira had to be phased out. And on top of that, given the suits taken to the Supreme Court by 3 governors of the northern states, and the Supreme Court ordering restraint on the part of the CBN from enforcing that phase out, yet CBN going ahead to enforce it, saying that there is no need to go back on the deadline. There's a lot of confusion right now. On my way to the studio this morning, quite a number of passengers were flagging me down because they were stranded. The tricycles, popularly called keke, are not taking the old notes. The new notes are not available, and people had to go to work and school, and so it's one gamut of confusion. As we speak, we have just been inundated of a situation at Oruguru in a bank. I wouldn't call the name right now, but then customers are vandalizing at the verge of putting setting ablaze, you know, distraughting and in fact scattering everywhere, if that can be used as what we've been told is happening there. We like to plead with citizens on this platform or political arena that when this policy has come and gone, when the situation calms down, the facilities at your disposal at the community level is still what you're going to use in making transactions. So if we destroy right now, the tendency is it's going to take a longer time to rebuild when eventually this passes away. This also would come to an end. So I'd like to admonish here on behalf of management of Delta Rainbow Television that we stay calm. It is time for us to stay calm. As very annoying as the situation seems. I mean, your monies have been paid to the bank, the new ones are not there, and you are stranded, as the case may be. We need to secure our lives, and most importantly, the property that we would work with after this has come and gone. Okay, so for today, we'll be looking at the topic we've tagged the implication of the CBN monetary policy on the 2023 general elections. We've kick-started this topic some weeks back, and of course today we would be looking at the correlation between what is happening right now, the financial crisis as it were, and then the monetary policy. To help us make sense of this, in the studio this morning we have Rotuho Iswoswo. He's an engineer and member of Progressive Congress, APC Delta State. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
We also have with us Mr. Lawson Agberia Ogoifo. He is a member of the People's Democratic Party, a PDP shifting in Udu local government area. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Nonetheless, we have Dr. Imenena Bright, Public Affairs Analyst. Good morning, Doctor.
Thanks for having me, Christy.
You're welcome. All right, I'd like to start with Doctor. Let me start with the last person. And when we look at the CBN's policy, first off, is no longer new. But what is new right now is the governors, somebody has called him the governor of the most important states and the most important governor right now, governor of the CBN states. Okay, if CBN were to be a state, Godwin Emefiele just yesterday said, and I quote him, "No need to consider any shift from the deadline of February 10 for the phasing out of the old 200 naira, 500 naira, 1000 naira. He says the bank's position remains unchanged despite Supreme Court's order restraining the Apex Bank from phasing out of the new note as planned. I'll leave it there, paraphrasing him. Now, when we look at the level of instability, as it were, you know, before all of this monetary policy, we've had issues with security issues. But this time around, it is financially inclined. What do you make of? Do you think there is a kind of confusion between what the Supreme Court has ordered, I mean, they're hearing that case today again now, and the fact that the CBN governor had to come out to speak in this manner, knowing that our constitution tells us that the Supreme Court is the apex court of the land, and then everything starts and ends there, or ends there rather. But with the CBN's position not adhering to that restraining order, do you think this is making way for peace? Do you think this is putting citizens in more confusion than they already have?
Okay, thank you once again, Christy. I think people's perception about these things will be determined actually by what their bias is. All right, but I will try as much as possible to look at it without bias, as I think it should be. I took time to read at least a part of the Supreme Court judgment, where it stated that that the ban on the old notes should be kept, should be
put on hold
until the hearing
today
of the case today. The Supreme Court didn't entirely say this is its judgment. I would like to say that it's saying that, okay, until we have time to hear this case, let the status quo of the notes, the old notes being useful, continue. Now, Emefiele has done a number of things, and I'm not a fan of him, and I must say that. But as a Nigerian who wants the best for Nigeria, I think this particular policy is one thing that I think we all should have embraced and be happy about. Because, come to think of it, we all complain about vote buying at the polls, right? And every Nigerian who wants Nigeria to be great should know that for us, we need to stand against vote buying at the polls. And if you continue to, with the existence of beavers now, the emergence of beavers, it becomes a little bit more difficult for people to alter results and all that. So they are looking at, they fear, the average politician fears that there's going to actually be voting. People are going to vote and their votes are going to count. So for the past, the fear elections we've had in the past now has exposed the fact that they are now looking at actually convincing individuals to vote for them. And the way they do that is to buy the vote. Now you cannot continue to leave your phone on top of your dashboard, and every time you leave it there, when you come back and be surprised that your windscreen has been broken so that the phone can be stolen. So another illustration I like to give to it is, if you are at a point on the flowing stream and dead bodies keeps coming, all right, dead bodies keeps, and then every time you pull out a dead body, you want to try to resuscitate the dead body, and then you discover that it has died. Before you finish your resuscitation, another one is coming. What will you do? You go and look at the source. We're not going to have enough policemen or enough rules to start arresting everybody who is buying trying to buy votes at the polls on election day. So the best thing to do is would be to say, okay, let us go cashless. Transfer money to those who want to buy that vote. Let's see how cumbersome, how complex that will be. Having said that, that is just one, because it will appear politically that that's what we say that Emefiele is trying to achieve. I don't entirely say that may not be part of it. a lot of people have also said it's probably trying to express vengeance on certain group of people. I'm not so sure that is not what he wants to do. But what I think as a Nigerian who wants the best for Nigeria is that even if one politician is trying to exert vengeance on the other politician by a policy that is good for the generality of the people should embrace it. If two honorary two persons who you see as a problem you quote to you are now fighting them, if one of them suddenly take a stance that favors the generality of us, I think we should embrace it. So the cashless policy of the CBN is something that they'll be talking about. Is it just start? And Nigerians are a little bit slow to embrace the change until they are either compelled by the situation or compelled possibly by brute force. In this particular time, we are being compelled by the situation, and I think that 3 months was enough for people to have gotten used to this thing and then prepare for it. Because are we importing the monies that we want to take to the bank to get the new ones? Now, having said all this, again, the only problem I have with the CBN is the fact that they probably have not made the new Naira note as available as they should have. And that is not to say, I understand, like most people don't, that taking 200,000 naira to the bank should not necessarily mean that you get 200,000 naira return in new notes. Because the purpose we defeated, the purpose from our initial is to make notes, physical notes scarce. It's so that we can now, the ATM machines should work, the POS machines should work, the transfer platforms should work. And then the limitations that have been put, we should be able to get those limitations.
Are they working?
So the CBN may have not done enough in that regard, but the policy as it is probably the best thing that this administration would have done.
Thank you.
I'll tell you other advantages. All right. I don't want to mention the names of my friends on the road, but these days when for example somebody who should not be asking you for money is asking you for money, you know what I tell them? Do you have POS? And everybody just laugh over it. Anybody who kidnaps now, for example, won't be a kidnapper. That such a person would have been a murderer, because you will know that this kidnapping you will kidnap now, you're not likely to get cash. Where would they get it from? So if you go grab somebody now, you're asking for that 5 million naira, you're not going to get it, except you're sure that is the CBN governor or a governor of a state or is the governor's wife and probably will have dollars to give to you. You know, right. So there are so many advantages that are inherent in the policy, and I think that this TT problems, this short-term inconvenience that we experience, should not be a reason why it should be jettisoned.
All right, thank you very much for that start. I come to you now, Mr. Lawson Agberia Ogaifo. Now, when we talk about vote buying, issues of vote buying, we're looking at the CBN monetary policy and how it will impact vote buying, for instance. In fact, how it will impact the election, generally speaking. He mentioned BVAS, the bimodal voter accreditation system. And when you look at that, immediately Oshu comes to mind. And when you talk about vote buying or not, there are allegations out there that the new notes, we have seen quite a number of display on the social media, are already in the coffers of some persons, to the extent that if it is about vote buying, of course we will see that whatever has to be bought would be before election day. That process may already have started. Some persons say that election does not take place on election day, it takes place way before that day. You know, I still look at the question on that I asked him on the ground, that when we look at these, is this not the kind of somersault, a situation where we say the laws of the land should be obeyed, the rule of law, and this is the courts that have said this, and then the CBN comes up to as a different entity that is immune to this rule? That those are not a lawyer that have said that, well, the governors didn't join the CBN or the federal government in this suit, and that is why the CBN is kind of having their way. Because apart from the logistic which Dr. Bright has said weren't properly implemented or put in place to cushion the impact of this, what can we say the CBN has done as far as the laws of the land are concerned? If the Supreme Court, which are meeting today now, are trying to mitigate the impact of this policy, while looking at that situation. A restraining order is a restraining order, and then the CBN governor comes ahead to say no, there is no going back, and that is throwing everybody into confusion. Nobody is ready to accept it's no longer legal tender for those old notes. Do you think there's a somersault of interest here, especially where the law interpretation is concerned?
Thank you very much, Christy. Actually, it's a somersault. A somersault in the sense that the people you are trying to protect, let me begin as you started, that Emefiele or the central bank, their motive is to protect vote buying, to make sure we operate on a cashless policy and others. But the outcome today is not favorable. The people you intend protecting are same people that is suffering. So it is a somersault. Because Emefiele and the CBN, whatever intention they were having in bringing this idea, so far that it's not working, it's not affecting the same people. As you rightly said, this the same currency, new Naira note that is not available. They are in the social media. In the hands of not even working Nigerians, younger teenagers with this note display, how do they get it? The minimum withdrawal is not available at the POS post. They are not issuing it at the counter. So where is this Naira note? It's not available. Our brother Dr. Bright rightly said that a 3 months notice is supposed to be enough for everybody. But it's not even enough for Emefiele and the central bank to do what they ought to have done. They did not even prepare. Then why do you expect Nigerians to prepare when those that are initiating it were not even ready for it? The Naira note is not available. It's not available anywhere, except I want to believe that even the people, the intent depriving of this Naira note, I am sure it is already in some person's possession. So it is already defeated before initiation. So that is my take.
Thank you very much. I come to you now, Arutuhu Isusu. When we talk about the aim already defeated, is already in possession. I was in a bank some few days back, and before now, when you go with a TV face or radio face, you have some kind of recognition, with all due respect. Yes. But that day, we were all sitting on the floor. I said on the floor because I had stood for like 3 hours. I was getting tired. I had to renew something in my account, given the times as well. But the only person who got audience that day, practically I shoved away the stress I had and had to go and try to talk to the young man, because it was causing mayhem there already. He said he was there the previous day with a wife and a little baby, that the wife slept on the staircase of that particular bank along the WARRI road, and that they promised him, that was on Friday, and then this day was a Monday, they promised him that today when he comes, he will be given something. And it was, we left, I got there about 1 after I left the office, we left there after 5. But this whole scenario happened about to 4. He was saying that by 4 o'clock, they will start saying they are closing. He has over how many millions in this bank? It's done. It's a done deal. He's no longer transacting. All he needs now is his money, and he needs it today. He used the word, I am not a Yahoo boy. Look at my legs. I work in the rig. This is what I got when I was doing this and that and all of that. Look, that kind of reaction gave him some monies in our faces that day. Is that right? No. But the thing is, if we're not going to have this, because there are people queue in that bank, the young man had been there previously and had been assured that when he comes back on the next day, incidentally his weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, on Monday he was there, and there was no hope for him. So the bank manager came out to say that, okay, there is no way they are going to give everybody money. He said he's not involved in this everybody thing. He's talking about himself and the fact that he's been here for years and all that. And eventually they called him into the room after security initially came to try to arrest the situation. He told them that they better start shooting now. If not, he will do what's more. But then eventually he got his way and got some monies. The thing is, if we are putting the policy forward and we look at the issue of trying to arrest some of these anomalies, here is a young man who is telling you that, look, well, I didn't go to verify that, but he's telling you that I didn't make my money through dubious means. It's a hard-earned money, like so many of us, not just him in this case. And then here you are working. You're going to be paid at the end of the day. Here I am not getting my money. How do I move forward? How can you say we're trying to check vote buying, and at the end of the day, allegations are that these persons who are going to be doing this transaction of buying or selling votes are the ones who already have this currency we're talking about that is not available. You know, in looking at the implementation of this policy and looking at the time frame for the election, is this not really going to assist in the business of, you know, impacting the election negatively, in that right now there are people who are saying we don't have monies to travel to wherever to go and vote? And so any monies, anything that comes by way of contract now, anything quote and unquote as far as elections are concerned, they're ready to do.
The picture is a very bad one. I'm a member of the All Progressives Congress, the governing party. And as far as I'm concerned, I support the policy. The Naira swap, yes, it's a good policy, just like privatization was a good policy or is a good policy. But I frown at the implementation. You can't withdraw 2-point-something trillion in notes from the economy and inject less than 300 billion, and you expect it to be sufficient. That's phase one. Phase two is the time is short. We first saw this money on TV December 15th, and for anyone who has been transacting with the banks, I'm not talking of POS or market to market, as at January 20th, I'm only speaking for myself that I know of, the banks were giving out old notes that ought to be phased out. So if between December 15th to January 15th, which is full month, there are no new notes for those who want to get cash, I agree with the ceiling that you get 20,000 per day maximum. It's okay by me. For the petty buyings you need to do with cash, 20,000 should be enough. So I am okay with that. But between this given time, you don't even have access to the new notes. And if you want to transact, you deposit old notes. If you go to the bank, you want to withdraw money, you withdraw old notes. You go to the ATM to withdraw money to spend, you get old notes. How will there be penetration of the new notes? So, as far as I'm concerned, between December 15th to January 20th, Emefiele has not started. So if you are telling me the time frame under which the money is being exchanged for a new note, you are telling me between 20th and 31st. That's 11 days. And all they were doing, if my memory serves me right, is taking old notes. The banks are open on Saturdays and Sundays for you to deposit your old notes, not to withdraw new notes. So he compressed us all into a very tiny space of time and shut the window, and it was too stuffy for everyone, and he got the message and he extended to 10th, 17th, maybe 15th, I don't even understand. And between then and now, it has been misbag of controversies. Yes, let me come home. This is economics, and the statistics here did not help the matter. I see it as deliberate sabotage
on
from the side of the CBN governor and whoever behind it, be it the president. I don't give a hoot at this point in time, because the policy implementation lack human face. I'm a human.
Let's break it down.
Yes.
Mr. Isoso,
Yes.
deliberate sabotage
Yes.
by the CBN governor.
Exactly. Mr. Godwin Emefiele, to be precise.
To what extent, to what advantage?
Do I have time to explain that? If I do, I'll explain. Okay. In brevity, Emefiele is the CBN governor. And if you understand our laws, if you have anything to think back to days of Idi Amin of Uganda, you understand why the CBN need to be protected from the government of the day to a very large extent, to operate as an independent financial manager of the country. To this end, the oversight function of the National Assembly and the presidency is very, very limited. That's like, even many offices you can be fired, but in the case of the CBN governor, he has security of tenure, and the process of firing him is not just by saying you fired. It follows due process from the National Assembly. Now, standing on this immunity or quasi-immunity as the case may be, he decided to use the powers he has to fight battles. I'm speaking for myself. To fight battles that are political. A man who is CBN governor, I never knew or heard of him being a member of my political party, the APC, woke up one day and got a form to contest for the presidency from the APC. And there was an uproar.
If he wasn't a member, did
Your
he
party
just come
voted
after?
for
He was given it for. What will you say?
You blame me here. I don't. You're taking
Buying
your
Party did not vote for him.
Buying
He voted
a
for
form.
him.
Was he
Issue.
was he
So
an
for to me.
independent candidate?
Did you
Are you
intend?
saying your party sells form to people who are not members?
You don't get it. If you think, if you want to go that way,
So I got
be
it.
real.
No. Was he an
What is this?
independent candidate?
No, he wasn't an independent candidate.
Until that point, he was not an
You don't
APC.
seem to get the picture.
Please
Let me
bring
paint it
us in.
clearer.
Yes.
I have never seen where a CBN governor is a member of a political party. It's not done anywhere.
Okay.
It is an apolitical office. So someone who occupies an apolitical office in the public face can be a member of a political party behind. And all of a sudden, he got a form. And the laws were actually pitched against him to the point of taking him to court. And he tried to defend himself that he can be sitting down as a CBN governor and run for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The uproar, what the dust that raised, were privy to it. Now, he did not run anymore because he was everywhere. I think I was in somewhere and I saw his vehicles branded in his name. If it's someone doing it for him or behind him, I don't care. But we have this episode. Now he sat back as CBN governor and he wants to change the currency. A good policy. On that one, I'm behind him fully, 100%. But if you want to change money from notes to e-naira, e-naira has been launched long ago. What is the level of implementation? What is the level of penetration? How many of my mothers at home are aware of e-naira or have the understanding of what they should do on how they can do it to be a party to it?
I don't seem to understand the correlation between the fact that he wanted to run for presidency and he no longer ran because of the uproar and so many things working against him, and the fact that he's
relationship
now
with the money.
with what is
Okay.
happening. Are you saying it's punitive? What he's doing now?
Okay, let me make it very clear. This, if you have not heard it before, you have heard it here now, that this is geared towards stopping, putting a block between politicians and vote buying. And the last time I checked, the duties of the CBN has nothing to do with elections in the first place. So using elections as a yardstick for making this kind of punitive, making this kind of punitive policy against the people doesn't have a basis. And just to be clear, if you want to change the money, change the money. If you want us to go E, prepare the E in such a way and manner that it can accommodate us. And at this point in time, we have no cash. Like you rightly said, the Supreme Court, it is not Supreme Court because it's just Supreme Court. It's because it's infallible because it's the Supreme Court. Whatever they say becomes the ground. It's just the way it is. Not because they are right or wrong. Because they said so, it is so. So if they said, keep this thing in the freezer until we hear the substance of the matter, why will the CBN governor arrogate power to himself to the point of saying this money is no longer a legal tender? And the chaos you spoke about, before coming here, someone told me of a small bus driver that got bludgeoned somewhere along the road over payment with old money. That's all we have, and I won't take that because the policy is totally lacking in human face. And whoever is supporting this policy as it is running today, not as it is intended or maybe designed to be, as it is running today, actually doesn't care if we live or die between our elections.
Thank you very much. Mr. Isoso, I'll come back to you now, Dr. Bright Emenena. Now, we also had, he's raised quite a number of issues here, and I'm glad he's a member of the All Progressive Congress, you know, pinpointing some of these salient issues. But then, moving forward, when we look at the office of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the person, the citizen, Godwin Emefiele, you know, are they one and the same? When we say, okay, when we look at the new Electoral Act, which said that you cannot, or maybe even the policy, the edict setting up the CBN, the fact that you cannot contest for an election, you're not supposed to be partisan. And then here we actually saw the vehicles, although we never got to see him speaking or campaigning, you know, so much could be said on that one. But if we look at it as a punitive policy, even though you both agree that it's a good one, but then from his explanation seems there's so much more to it, the way it's been implemented right now, and what happened, what transpired under the purported aborted ambition of the CBN governor. You know, do you think that that has anything to do or is impacting on what is happening right now on the one hand? And secondly, the elections are just days away. There are speculations already that, look, the Independent National Electoral Commission is saying they're going to meet and they're coming up with, they'll make a final statement on the election. I don't know what statement that would be, to what extent, but then everyone is expecting the elections to hold on 25th of this month. Do you think that there is something that can be done between now and then, looking at all of these scenarios painted, towards getting us peaceful, credible election, having in mind that before now, sensitive materials will also be placed in the care of this governor, Godwin Emefiele?
Okay, thank you once more, Christy. You see, I hope we have enough time to talk about everything. I will never throw away
about 10 minutes.
the baby and the bathwater.
Thank you.
All right? And then God has a way of fighting the battle of his people. So I started, but in my opening statement, I did say that I'm not a fan of Godwin Emefiele. As a matter of fact, I think whatever pressure is getting now, he got it upon himself by trying to meddle into politics. I frantically at that. I think it was wrong. He should never have. However, I do not. Godwin Emefiele was an appointee of the president and may not have been a career civil servant per se. You could compare him to a minister or like the Minister of Finance or any other minister. Yes, his tenure is protected by the Constitution. All right. Now on the Supreme Court's ruling that you talk about, and Supreme Court trying to be the final, we need to also be careful. All right. We don't want to go against Supreme Court judgment, but if you misbehave to a child is going to abuse you. That's the point. If you don't behave like an adult will abuse you, because I, for one, think that the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction at all to have entertained that case. The Supreme Court is the final place when it comes to law. I agree. But the Supreme Court has rejected taking up cases in the past, anywhere where democracy works. Because let me tell you what the Supreme Court has said. The CBN has constitutional right to design money policies about money. The Supreme Court cannot stand up and say, CBN, this your interest rates are too high. Or CBN, this your interest, your 20,000 limitation per day withdrawal is too low. No. The Supreme Court cannot say no. Make your interest rate to be 1%. That is what the Supreme Court has done. The Supreme Court cannot usurp the function of the executive and the legislature. If the Supreme Court cannot say, the Supreme Court cannot say because a man was hungry and he stole, so the stealing is no longer crime. So let's get that right. What the Supreme Court, because the people are suffering, this policy should be put on hold. That That is not the Supreme Court's work.
No,
to implement.
What
to,
I want
no, that's the Supreme Court should not have taken up that case. I don't want to care what any legal luminary have to say. I think if some of us had done law, we probably would be doing better. Would have been sound. No, it's the truth, and it's the law interpretation of the law is not something that you have to necessarily discern. They are there. And I understand that morality and legality are different things. So the Supreme Court, what Supreme Court did was to take morality above legality. So now, somebody once told me that when
people went to court. Supreme Court didn't just get up and made a statement.
Let me address something. You had said that the monies are in the hands of those who will spend them. I disagree with you. I can assure you that these governors have no interest of the people enough to have gone to court, if not because they see how it will impact them. I'm beating my chest. Yes, we've seen some money thrown around here and there, but it is not at that level that they will be sharing 5,000 to people at polling units. Monies stashed away in new old notes. What they are doing is to ensure that they are able to spend it on election day. That is simple. El-Rufai didn't go to court to get Supreme Court to force ASU to resume strike, for crying out loud. We have suffered worse things in this country. None of these governors went to Supreme Court to ask for any reprieve for the people. That's why I'm saying that God has the way of fighting his battles. Emefiele did wrong.
So they went there for their own selfish means.
For their own selfish interest. There are yes, I am saying that.
So you're saying
Dr.
the
Mena
Supreme
Bright is
Court
saying that
ruling.
the Supreme Court look, the Supreme Court should save himself today by upturning that their own ruling, so that we can have some peace. No, it's the truth. What they should do is to say, okay, yes, so we hear the case now. Yes, the CBN has power to do whatever they want to do.
All right.
Let the Supreme Ruling Council, what is it called? The Council of States now say, okay, CBN, make this money more available.
Which they have said already.
Exactly,
Mr. Lawson Ogoifo.
Let the monies be available. Let those who are holding the money be sanctioned. Let there be money in our ATMs to the limits available to the amount that the limitations allow.
Thank you very much.
That's
they have said that the council instead, they already said that when they said, look, it's either you redistribute the old notes or you make available the new notes.
Precisely.
That's the much they can do. It's just to say it. They cannot enforce it.
I
But Mr. Ogoifo, no, as we wind up now, looking at the position of vote buying and selling, to what extent will this really effectively check this? Because if the beavers were all that the bimodal voter accreditation system we placed so much hope on was able to receive some knocks in Osun, when it comes to this issue of vote buying and selling, because people have said that no matter the technology, it is Nigerians that would there are people that would sit there, human being in Nigeria DNA that would operate the machine, and so there would also be some human error here and there. But in looking at this and looking at the days before the election, tell us your picture of election day with what we're having right now, with the lack of accessibility to the new notes.
Okay, thank you very much, Christy. And actually, as you have said, Nigerians are always Nigerians. If they intend buying votes, I don't think availability of the new note will stop anybody. I don't see it. That is why I condemn what is happening now, because if the intention is to prevent vote buying, it's a lie. It cannot prevent it. That is the way I look at it.
Why are you cocksure of that? Because when we had the delegate elections, some dollars, we saw dollarization of election monies on that one. There were dollars on display. And eventually, some persons who didn't make it had knocks on their door at night to say, where's my money?
That's why I said we are Nigerians. I don't want to portion blame to any political party. All the parties were involved in it.
Okay.
And all the same people, candidates emerged from all these parties as well. So those are the people contesting. So I don't think withdrawing a new Naira note or whatever note will have an effect if that is what they intend doing.
All right.
But I'm seeing the beavers and as a good introduction to democracy. Actually, it will help if INEC want Nigeria to be better.
All right. Thank you very much. You don't have much time. I come to you, Mr. Isoso, to wind this up now. Now, talking about this stopping vote buying or not, do you think it's time to appeal to Nigerians for somebody to just come and take responsibility and say, look, this was wrong, but this should not stop election? How do you size the body language and, you know, the average Nigerian right now reaction to what's happening? And then is this not going to make for voter apathy, so to speak? Will people be interested in going to the polls on February 25?
Before I actually respond to you, there's something I want to say to Doc. If the Supreme Court doesn't have jurisdiction on state matters, that he is saying by extension that Emefiele can make a policy to withdraw every naira and tell us that we're not going to deal on money again, and we are all going E, and if you cannot transact on E, go to hell. And nobody can do anything because they are, in quote, autonomous, and that is not true. The Supreme Court preside over matters that involve everything and everyone. That is why they are supreme and they are infallible. They can't be wrong. That's on that one.
We cannot go into all of that now because of time, because
record
we are not even are we
Are we-
printing, do they have access to printing what we should have as a country? Are they going outside to print like those allegations and all that?
To
But
how it affects our election.
our election and the
If
voter
we want
party.
to buy vote as politicians, as long as we can transact, is it by barter or by E, the votes will be bought. The only solution
Or by appointment.
by means we are politicians.
Promissory
and
notes.
Yes, there are many ways to do it, but the only thing that mitigates this thing and gets a result is the beaver is a very big police, and I would say beavers do not take a knock in the shoe. It is the human that
Behind
take a
him.
knock.
Yes.
The beavers was the police.
Beavers walked.
The beavers was the police. The humans were the people that did the wrong thing. So
They did the wrong thing through using the beavers.
no,
No,
the
no.
beaver can't be used.
The beavers is the reason
was
they are
the
catching
police.
them.
Okay.
So whatever you do wrong, the beavers is the police. So in this case, the beavers is on point. What I'm saying is the only thing that stops vote buying is when the voting process is ultra secret. If you can't tell who I voted for, you won't pay me.
But no one goes into the booth with you.
Then you design it, and the simple design is available. You have a beavers, you have a booth. The booth should be big enough to cover you, and you are not going to be given just a ballot. You will be given an envelope as well, just like was done in 1983 by FEDECO. If I give you ballot and I give you envelope, you can't come out from that booth unless your ballot is in the envelope. And when you come, you put the envelope in the box. We won't be there with you. But what we know is when we want to count, each envelope can only come out with one ballot. If there are two ballots and envelope, it's void already. That way, nobody knows who anybody voted for. And at the end of the day, you can't pay anybody.
All right.
Because if you're going to spend money, you're only spending it for free.
Thank you. Our time is
That
up.
way, I think we have solved the problem.
Our time is up, really. We just must thank you at this point, once again, indulging Nigerians to stop destroying bank properties, stop attacking bankers. They are brothers and sisters. They are not the CBN, neither are they the CBN governor or the policymakers. Yes, implementation-wise, there's so much they can do better, but then destroying the properties is just not going to help anyone, because when this has gone off, we would be having a situation where we do not have a bank building in that community where you are destroying a bank right now. Well, there's so much to be done when it comes to on the part of the CBN. Good policy, they say, but then implementation is so challenged. The Nigerians will always be Nigerians. Dr. Bright says they are not proactive enough. This policy has been on the ground for quite a while, and then why wait until the last minute to try to do something? Some other person says it as punitive policy. The fact that someone tried to run for an office, didn't make it, and now is running playing God and all of that. He used the word Idi Amin of Uganda. But then no time to do all of these summaries. But we must say thank you to Mr. Lawson Agberia Ogifo, PDP Chieftain Udu Local Government Area. Aruturu Iswoso is an engineer and member of the APC Delta State, and Dr. Emenina Bright, Public Affairs Analyst. Gentlemen, many thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That's our program today. We urge you to join us again on Friday for Friday's edition of the program. On behalf of the producers, Johnson Obaseje, John Clover, Grace Mato, I am Christy Jahua Yenuku. On behalf of other members of the crew saying, do the right thing, Nigeria will get better. See you next time.
For this House, probably working with the Senate to come up with a clear strategy on how to engage the federal government to live up. For this House, probably working with the Senate